name is Laelle Brown. I'm from Willingboro, New Jersey. I'm 25 years old. My early childhood was pretty good. I had both of my parents. They were separated, but they were both very active in my life. I pretty much got like whatever I wanted most of the time. For the most part, I lived with my mom, but I would always be with my dad sometimes too. I was about 11 or 12 when I first moved in with my dad. And so I was in middle school, and he was like really strict on schooling and doing right and stuff. So, I mean, I felt very cared for, but I also felt like I had to be perfect. I just had to be really on top of my grades and stuff. And he was helpful in that aspect, but that was like all there was. My dad dressed me mostly like a boy. And I would say it's like a boy just because it was more so like always jeans, kind of baggy clothes. Like, I mean, it was nice designer clothes, like polo and stuff like that, but it was like what most boys would wear. And I just was comfortable in it, so it wasn't really a problem. My mom was home when I lived with my dad, and I would be back and forth, so it's not like I didn't get to see my mom or anything. I was pretty much with both of them. I was just with my dad primarily during those middle school years until he went to jail. When I was younger, I had just my little brother at first, and then later on, I had a little sister from my dad. Well, a little brother from my mom and a sister from my dad. I moved in with my dad in middle school because at that time, it was really because I was getting in trouble in school a lot. But then when he went to jail, I moved back with my mom. The second time I moved in with my dad, it was because my mom didn't have anywhere to live, so I had to. I never felt hurt by my dad at all, but I did most of the time by my mom, except for when she wasn't really present. I didn't feel heard by my dad because from my perspective, he kind of had like an image of how I was supposed to be, and didn't really like anything that wasn't what he already agreed on. So like if I was to speak on something or say I like this or whatever, he'd wrong it, he'd say it was wrong, so I just had to do what he said all the time. My dad mostly made me feel like, for one, he's controlling and men are controlling. But something in me just knew it's just kind of how he cares. My dad went to prison when I was in 7th grade, and nobody told me for a while. I didn't know where he was. And it was kind of weird because I lived with him, so like not seeing him for weeks and weeks on out and not knowing why was uncomfortable. And then when I found out he was in prison, I kind of knew what my dad was into without knowing the gist of what he went to prison for. It was uncomfortable because my dad pretty much gave me everything I needed all the time. Sexually, growing up, I didn't start identifying as anything until 8th grade when I was labeled as a lesbian or gay or whatever. And like this girl that I was just friends with, honestly, was very aggressively flirting with me and telling me I was her girlfriend and stuff. So eventually she became my girlfriend. And then I was gay. I started to identify as gay when I was in 8th grade. And I did experience sexual abuse from an older cousin of mine, a girl. And that was probably when I was about maybe 6 or 7. I recently told my mom about me being molested when I was little by my cousin. And she told me that she already knew. And we never talked about it, so I didn't know how she knew. But that made me feel uncomfortable and not safe because I felt like she should have done something about it. But I mean, I guess I don't know what she would have done because my cousin was, I guess, also a kid too. So maybe she didn't look at it as me being molested or whatever. But I didn't feel comfortable. And it would have probably been better if she didn't know and I was just telling her. I do feel like me being molested by a girl had a lot to do with my sexuality because that was the first sexual experience I ever had. It's, I guess, what I knew as time go on. Even though, like, because the way I dressed, because as a kid, like, people would assume that, but I think just made me feel like, well, this is what I know, I guess. When I moved to Beverly, that was in 8th grade, the middle of 8th grade, and apparently everyone has heard about me from where I come from, and I was the lesbian girl in Beverly. So as soon as I got there, that was like the first thing everyone asked me about being gay. I literally only had one girlfriend right before that, didn't know much. But other than that part, the people in Beverly were very welcoming. I felt comfortable with my friends there. When my dad went to jail and I moved back with my mom, at first we were in Willingboro, my grandmom and my grandfather, and then we moved to Beverly, and my grandfather went to a nursing home until he eventually passed, and my mom stopped working. She started to date this guy who wasn't good for her. She was so wrapped up in him, so it was like, my dad's in jail and now my mom's here, but she's not here. That's when I kind of started to just do what I wanted and go where I wanted and be with who I wanted, be out a lot and not be home at all. My relationship with my mom before she got in this relationship was really like beautiful. My mom was my best friend. So it wasn't like, I mean, she's had different boyfriends every now and then, but I've always felt safe. She always felt like she still put our kids first. Once my mom started to date him, our relationship pretty much ended. It seemed like she was only giving him attention, to the point where it was like she wouldn't cook for us sometimes or feed us, and she wasn't home a lot, and if she was home, she'd stay in the room with him all day long. Their relationship was very abusive. He was very abusive. He wasn't respectful to me or my grandmom, and my grandmom lives there. And she just allowed so much shit she would never allow to me. She never allowed this before. And she just allowed so much. He was very disrespectful. Just in general in the house, like he just walked around this house like it was his and didn't pay me or my brother no mind. Like, my mom didn't pay us no mind, so he didn't pay us no mind. I just basically started to hate her. It started to show up in my behaviors by, like, me pretty much smoking weed all the time. I was just out smoking, drinking too. I was only like 14, and I was drinking, smoking, partying, just out of the house. I mean, like, I wanted to be there for my brother, but, like, leaving him too because I can't do nothing for him, so he's younger than me, so I was just out a lot and just like in the streets. But like I said, my friends in Beverly was cool, so it was like, that's where I was at. I never wanted to be home because I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel heard or loved unless I was with my grandmom. But my grandmom kind of stays in her own world. She's very good at minding her business. So she didn't give a lot of energy to what my mom had going on and to us or whatever. I could tell like things would hurt her, but she wouldn't do much about it. She would just mind her business. And I would just be out of the house because I hated it there. My grandmom is my everything. She's my best friend. My grandmom is my best friend because she always listened to me. And not for nothing, my grandmom's sweet. Like, she's a sweet woman. She just always made me feel safe and loved. She took care of us. I mean, I lived with her. Even though I lived with my mom, I'm still living with her. So like, when my mom go to work, I'm with my grandmom and stuff like that. Like, my grandmom was my safe space from the beginning of time. So my dating life around like, again, really around like 14, 15 years old. And I was pretty much dating a lot of girls, probably all at the same time. Kind of just what I would call fucking with everybody. And I even like talked to some guys too, like, but not really publicly at all. That was super quiet, backdoorish. But I was like extra, needed like extra attention. So I was like talking to like so many girls and just getting my fulfillment off of being around people and being really out there. At the time when I started dating, yes, I consider myself a player because I looked at myself as playing people, but more so because like I would not be in a faithful relationship, not once, not ever. Even if I lied and said I would, I really wouldn't. It could have been called a hoe or a player, but you know, that's what it was. I view the men in my life as not worthy of like my real attention or time, because most of them were either controlling or wanted one thing. So I didn't really view the men in my life as anything other than not worthy. I've had relationships with women publicly and men like on the down low. I think it's because I mostly already identified as a lesbian, and that's where I felt comfortable. That's where I was popular. That's where I got a lot of attention. But I did like male attention. I did enjoy being with men, even though it was only sexual at that time. I still liked it. I just didn't want nobody to know that. At first, my dad didn't know that I was smoking weed, dating girls. When he came home from jail and I wound up moving back in with him, he found out, and I got in trouble. I mean, he judged me a lot. I got punished a lot for it, and then he tried to like keep girls away from me. Like my friends couldn't spend a night no more, and I couldn't go there, and all types of stuff like this. And at this time, I'm like 16, 17. I was 17. My mom had a panic attack when we were in Beverly. So I was about 15. I thought she was on drugs that day. I thought she was on like heavy drugs. My mom smokes weed, but she's never done anything else, at least to my knowledge. But I thought she was on like real drugs because she was like shaking and she couldn't talk, and she was like going crazy. And this is around the time where I hated her. So I just hated her even more when I saw her have this panic attack, because I'm like, now you're on drugs. I hate you. But I found out way years later that she was having a panic attack to something traumatizing in her life, finding out that she wasn't healthy. I didn't have a safe space at that time unless I would talk to my grandma. And again, she really did mind her business a lot around that time. So like, I mean, she listened to me, but I could tell she was over a lot of the drama in the house. So I didn't feel like I had a safe space unless I was just out smoking or something with friends, which is not really safe, but it was comfortable. I moved back in with my dad when I was 17 because my grandma said she's leaving Beverly. She doesn't want to live there with us anymore. So she went and got her own apartment. She didn't tell anyone until she already got the apartment. So my mom had to figure out where she was going. We all had to figure out where we were going. So I actually stayed with a friend first before I moved in with my dad, because he had just got home from jail. So I was kind of nervous to ask him, can I move in? And my mom wasn't doing it. She wasn't talking to him. She wasn't doing anything. So I had to ask him, and then I moved in with him When I first moved in with my dad, the girlfriend that he did have, she wasn't living in the house at first because they were together before he got locked up, but then they broke up while he was locked up, and that's my sister's mom. So I think that he wanted to work on that relationship, but at first it was just me and him, which was comfortable in a sense because we were like re-getting to know each other. And we kind of bonded, and then she moved in less than like 6 months, maybe like 6 months later. And she was, to me, jealous of me and my dad's relationship because she did everything in her power to make me feel uncomfortable, not safe, and just to show that she was more important. And then I became like the fucking Cinderella of the house. I had to clean all the time, do everything. So, yeah, I didn't like her at all, not even a little bit. I found out me and my dad had cooking in common. I didn't know that before he got locked up, but once he came home from jail, me and him cooked a lot. I was in culinary in high school, so I guess that stood out to him. You know, that was something he cared about a lot. That was something I cared about. So we started to get to know each other and bond over that. My dad kicked me out when I was 19 because it's still questionable, but I would say from my perspective, it's because of his wife, girlfriend, whatever. They eventually got married. So his wife, yeah, she just complained to him about me nonstop. Like I was just a big problem child. I mean, I smoked, but I didn't do anything else. So he kicked me out. And I moved in with this girl I was talking to, but not really moved in with her. I just was staying there. And at that time, my mom had a 1-bedroom apartment. She wound up getting an apartment. So I wound up staying there. Just really from then on, I was just like anywhere, kind of uncomfortable. No. After I left my friend's house, I moved to Texas with this girl I was dating. I moved to Texas more so just because I felt like I had nowhere to go here. And she was from Texas and sounded good to get out of Jersey. And so I thought that going there, I could like start over with everything. And send for my brother was also my goal, to start over, get my own spot, get my own space, and then have him come with me because, yeah, I'm going through having somewhere to go, and he was kind of going through the same thing at a younger age. And the girl I was dating, she was like my first, I guess I would say, like real relationship, really. We got along really good. We was like best friends, and like I loved her for real. So she's from Texas, so I moved to Texas with her. Well, where her family is from, whatever. And at first it was really nice. It was new, it was brand new. So it was interesting to me. I loved it. The food was really good, so I love that. We stayed with her mom at first. Her mom's kind of crazy, but she's turned up, so I like her. And so then the plan was for us to go out there and get a place to be together, to get our own space and start over and blah, blah, blah. Really, she was supposed to go play ball professionally, like college ball. So we was gonna go out there, get established, so when she goes play college ball, it's gonna be overseas, I would be comfortable where I was at. But like within the first 2 months of me being there, me and her, now we turned up a lot. We drank, I even was sipping lean with her a lot. We was smoking, that's what we do. And we went out one night to a club, and after the club, we fought. really fist fought bad in the car while I was driving. So I had to park to fight her. And she started it, physically she started it. I don't know who started it verbally. I had to pull over to fight her in a parking lot. We was at a parking lot though, but, and we fought like bad, like busted lip, black eyes. It was wild, crazy. And that was not the first time we had a physical encounter, actually. I slapped her before, so I guess I opened those doors. I didn't never really acknowledge that, because she never hit me back and we never fought again after that. That was a long time ago. But that night we fought really bad, and cops came. Some guy at the store called the cops on her. I broke her phone. She was like going crazy, trying to we really was like trying to kill each other out there. So she went to jail that night and stayed in jail for like 2 nights. And I was hurt. I was embarrassed. I didn't tell anybody from Jersey. I didn't tell anybody. I went back to her mom's house. I had to tell her mom what happened. And her mom was more so upset with her daughter. Like, she was mad at her for reacting, I guess, or doing all of that. And I didn't tell her it was anybody's fault. I just said we fought or whatever. But she made me feel comfortable as she possibly can, I think. I didn't want to go home still. I wanted to stay there and fix it with her. I even visited her in the jail the next day like she was gonna be there forever or something, because I think I wanted her to say sorry, but I really just wanted to make sure she was okay. And she said sorry, but you know, we both wasn't okay. Like, we both looked crazy in the face, like literally we had black eyes and busted lips and stuff. So it was like really toxic. After that, we made a decision to not drink together and also not do lean. But we still was smoking. And that was hard. I didn't realize it would be that hard because I never tried to stop drinking before. And it made our relationship weird because most of the time we was drinking. And as time went on being there, we kept fighting. Like, even not with being drunk or anything, we just kept fighting. If it wasn't like, it was never as physical like that, like punching each other in the eyes and stuff, but we did have way more arguments and it was more pushing involved. And I tried to run her over in my car a couple times. Like, we was arguing outside. She left me outside all night one time. Yeah, it was extremely horrible. And I wouldn't tell anybody from at home. I didn't have any friends out there, so all I had was her. And not for nothing, I loved her, so I wanted to be with her and fix it. But it was getting really bad. I think I moved out there, and I moved out there in October and wound up leaving the following year by April. So this didn't even last long enough because it was so much fighting as soon as we got there. It was just going neck and neck. We did get a place together, which did not help because that just made us more isolated within ourselves and more reasons to fight. One night, she was out all night. I had like wild trust issues when it came to her all of a sudden, because I don't think it was all of a sudden, but I never took no other relationship serious, so I never saw these trust issues until now, because she was like out all night and I was just like creating all these crazy scenarios in my head of what she's doing, and she was going crazy. So when she came back, I was like, I stabbed her. I cut her up a lot, stabbed her, and she was talking about sending me to jail and stuff. So that was our last night around each other, because the next day I booked a flight to go back home. My mom finally told her, I didn't tell her everything that was going on. I just told her that me and her was getting into it and I want to come home. That was it. And so I didn't know where I was gonna live because at that time, my mom didn't have a place. And I still was not talking to my dad. And I just wanted to come home to get away. So I booked a flight and came home, and my mom asked my aunt, can I move in with her? So then I wound up living with her, and I never talked to that. Well, not that I never talked to that girl again, but that ended there. When I came back from Texas, oh, I was seeing everybody. I think like a lot of people say, like a relationship turns you into a savage sometimes. So after being in that relationship in Texas, because we was together before Texas, but the traumatizing part was mainly in Texas, I came home and I stayed with my aunt, who gave me a very safe space, but I don't think I really deserved it or knew how to maintain comfort there because I was so hurt by what I was going through with her. So I just was in a whole bunch of mess. I was messing with girls, I was messing with guys, I was just messing with everybody. Like a lot. After being with my aunt for 2 years, I did wind up getting in another relationship where it was a relationship. Because for a while, I mean, I had like little things I'll probably call like a girlfriend every now and then, but it wasn't never real. It was just me being a hoe. And so after like 2 years of staying with my aunt, and it was time for me to actually move out, approaching time for me to move out because I've like overstayed my welcome at this point. I did wind up getting in another relationship. And at this time, I met this girl when I was out in the streets. I mean, because my aunt made a safe space, but I didn't want to be there, so I still wasn't home. I was out a lot, smoking, drinking a lot again. I did e-pills a lot. So I met this girl who was a stripper, but she was a good friend of mine, kinda. I mean, we became friends at first, and she was a stripper, and I kind of just liked her energy because it was so like raw, and you know, I guess we're in the space I was at, me and her connected. So that was my next relationship. It started off extremely weird because like she beat up somebody for me to get my to love me, I guess, for me to love her, and I loved it. I fucked with her heavy, and that was my next relationship. I did feel supported in this relationship. I felt supported because she was kind of like a cheerleader, like a best friend, like I got your back, you know, whatever you want to do, we could do, you know, like she was a down-ass bitch. That's what they say, a down-ass bitch. That's what she was for me. My anger started to show in that relationship when I really just started to want better for myself. Because I would get so frustrated with her not being... She was a very good friend to me. And I think I started to want more, so I started to like try to change her. And it was frustrating because the things that I've always liked about her, I started to hate about her, like her exciting energy and her I don't give a fuck attitude and all that shit. It was like that shit was childish at one point, and I wanted her to stop. I wanted her to act a certain way in front of people. I wanted her to start learning how to love me, I guess, because she was just like a cheerleader to me and wasn't really, I guess I wasn't really in a space where I wanted anything more. And then when I did want something more, it was just she wasn't providing it. So me and her would go at it, but we never like fist fought or anything, but we would go at it. I mean, that's what a lot of lesbian relationships are. fighting and arguing, honestly. I knew the relationship was over for a long time. Probably, we was together for a total of 2 years. We even got a place together, but I knew the relationship was over. I never intended to be with her that long, actually. So I don't really think that, I think I was kind of just waiting for a reason to leave. But I loved her, so I didn't want to leave her. Like, I didn't want to cheat on her and her get caught and then she hate me forever. I wanted to just leave her peacefully because I started to really work on myself, and I saw that this really just wasn't what I wanted. Simply because, you know, where we met, it was when I was in a very low space, and who she is who she is, and I don't want to keep trying to change her. It was exhausting. So I think after 2 years of being together, we moved in together and everything, I wound up saying, telling her I want to be with her, and she didn't believe me. So, I mean, I kind of dealt with her for a little bit longer because I didn't want to be mean and I didn't want to hurt her feelings for real. But then I just started to distance myself mentally and like sexually. I wouldn't engage with her anymore. So after like a couple months after I told her we wasn't together, she actually noticed we wasn't together, and you know, she moved on. She moved out. I came into a relationship with myself, and at first it showed itself by cutting everybody off. I cut everybody off that, you know, told my girlfriend we're done, kicked her out. Well, I didn't kick her out. I gave her the option to leave, or I can leave, and she chose to leave. I didn't talk to my mom that much because I needed to heal a lot for the way I felt about her. Because not for nothing, all through these years, me and her would still have really intense arguments ever since I hated her. At first it looked lonely and uncomfortable, but I learned a lot about myself and what I really, really wanted. I started to pay attention to what the people I was attracted to, and I really wanted to know why I was always fucking with men low-key, but being public with women, and I never really understood that. So I just started to really like look at my past and look at myself and see a lot of the shit I was doing wasn't really me. I am currently in a relationship. I am in a relationship with a man that I love so much, and we're creating life together. So I love him even more for giving me that. We knew each other forever, actually, like since like probably like middle school. But we always been friends, just completely platonic, like nothing. I've never been interested in him. He's never been interested in me. I'm sure he knows that I've always dealt with women. But we saw each other, because every now and then we'll run into each other and catch up. That was normal. How you doing? Whatever. Da, da, da. And this last time we ran into each other, it was very different and like magical or something. His energy and my energy was like, and so we just started to vibe since then, and I am 21 weeks pregnant, and I'm having a little boy. I manifested this child. That's the real thing, because I've been saying all the time, I love kids. And I've always said, like, I want a son. I really always said I want a son. I want a son. And when I was saying it, like even when I was with the last girl I was with, I was telling her, I want a son. I want to have a baby. I want to have a son. And so when I took that time away from a lot of people, I wasn't having sex. I wasn't drinking. I still smoke, 'cause that's my shit. But I wasn't doing or engaging in all that other stuff, clubbing and all that shit. So I really transformed, basically. And I think the things that I wanted that I was manifesting were coming to me like extremely fast, even down to him. I manifested that man that I wanted because I would say what I wanted with the type of love that I wanted. But I had to like give that love to myself first. So when I was doing that, he came into my life. I loved him, and now he's giving me a baby that I'm excited about. My family, they were shocked when they found out I was pregnant. Some of them were extremely judgmental. You know, I mean, I've never been with a guy, so they're like, what happened? What you was, you know, they tried to still, you know, deem me to be a lesbian. It was like, well, if I'm pregnant, you know, just accept that. But I had some really good reactions. Like my mom, she was extremely excited and happy for me. But then like some other people were like really saying I'm crazy or I'm confused and, you know, so shocked that they just didn't want to accept it. Ultimately, I just don't fuck with whoever says that because, I mean, to me, it's a great thing to be able to create life. I would tell someone that's in a similar situation as me to really just stay true to yourself. Like, be 100% yourself and take the time to find out what that means. Because we don't really, sometimes we're living based off of what other people say we are, and we think that's ourselves. So when you like take the time to really get to know yourself and live through your truth and be honest and open, because the more I started to do that, that's how I manifested what I want. That's how I'm going to continue to manifest what I want. So just be real, be true to yourself.